Welcome to Rev Up Your Business with Hilda Gann, the podcast for people-centric leaders, business owners, and HR professionals who know that people are at the heart of business success. Join me and industry experts as we explore the key aspects of building a thriving company, sharing cutting-edge strategies, impactful insights, and the latest trends to help you ignite your business growth. It's time to rev up your leadership, rev up your success. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Rev Up Your Business. We're going to talk today about resilient workplaces, boosting recovery and well-being. And I have today with me Joyce Odidison. She's the expert in recovery and resilience, the president and CEO of Interpersonal Wellness Services, and the founder of the Global Workplace Wellness Summit and Wellness Academy. And on top of that, she has a magazine that she publishes, and it's called The Faces of Workplace Wellness. Joyce is also the author of 7 books, is a certified coach, a coach training director, and a C-suite level workplace wellness specialist who works with government, private sector, nonprofits, and post-secondary institutions who want to optimize workplace relationships and reduce stressful situations. Welcome, Joyce. I've been looking forward to our conversation.
Hi, Hilda. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I am good. And it's January. It's cold. It's very, very cold as we're taping this. And I really wanted to bring you on because to me, wellness, particularly in the workplace, is important. And you've got 26, 27 years of this passion to help people. What do you see right now as what is creating those stressors or burnout even in the workplace?
That's a really good question, Hilda. One of the things we are struggling with in our workplaces is that workplaces have changed, but we're still using the old methods. All the old methods, all the old processes, that's what we're still using. And it's no longer that. We're no longer in, we're past the industrial age. We're moving into the technological age, and COVID has changed entirely the faces of workplaces. And yet we are stuck in the old model. Something has happened. Let's just throw some training at it, and everything will be fine. And we've lost the ability to sit back and say, what is the human impact to this? How is this impacting my employees on an emotional, mental, spiritual level? And how do I get them back to that place where they're fully recovered and they're resilient and they can move forward, uh, even through the difficulties we're going? Even if the situation is not over, we can start thinking about recovering people's mental equilibrium so they can move forward.
Are you finding more and more people in leadership roles and in human resources are more sensitive to the human element of connections, or are they still working on old models or just head in the sand mentality when it comes to problems that are of a more emotional, social, psychosocial level?
Yes and no. I think there is more awareness now, but there is still a lot of hesitation to act. So even now that we have the information, we have the research, we know what's going to happen, we still don't have a plan on what to do when we get there. It's not when it's going to happen. It's not if it's going to happen, it's rather when it's going to happen. And when it does happen, are we prepared? Do we have the strategies in place? Do we have the solutions? Do we have the tools and resources? Or at least do we even know where to go? Or we're sitting around, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe he just said that. I can't believe she just did that. Yeah, I can't believe, oh, this is going to really cause problem. People are going to be upset. Yeah, that's humans. We get upset. How do we move past that?
You mentioned the old models, and some people may have their head kind of in the old models, not realizing that they're old, They think they're innovative. Can you kind of share what you mean by some of those old models? You did say it's not the Industrial Revolution, and people probably think, yeah, I'm not using those things, but maybe we are and we don't know it. So maybe I'd love you to articulate what those are before you share with us your solutions to help us.
Well, if you're finding yourself at work and there are issues that are happening that people are upset about, and there is no clear strategy for communicating about it, looking at the impact, the repercussions, and helping people to move past it, then you are in that old model. Because you can't just hide away in your office, or employees don't get to hide anymore. When I started the workforce, Hilda, people go to work in the morning and they left their phones at home,
Yes, because that's
right?
that's
Yeah.
all we had then.
We went to work and we got to work, and when we got to work, all we focused on was work and what was happening in the workplace. If our family member, if we had a crisis, if we had an issue, if somebody was sick, they would call, the receptionist would take a call and leave a message, and then the receptionist would give it to you at your coffee break. And that's how you would know something was going on outside of work, right? And if the receptionist is mad at you, you might not even get the information, right? So what's happening now is that we have these little gadgets. We take them everywhere. People can reach us anytime, anywhere. And it's not just the people in our workplace or people in our cities, but we can see what's happening in Jerusalem. We can see what's happening. So it's a completely different environment of work right now. So when something happened in my workplace, I am Googling, what do people do when this happened? So I'm looking to see what my leaders are doing, and I'm comparing. I can't believe they did nothing. This is what they're doing. Well, this happened in New York, and this is what they did for the employees. This is what Google and Facebook is doing for the employees. Hello, this is the world we're living in, the information age. And so, as leaders, we're sitting back. When I see leaders sitting back in the dark ages and saying, well, maybe we'll just have a workshop, maybe some training, and we'll fix, they'll learn what to do. Like, "Yeah, really?
Yeah, and
What's
I remember when I was young and early in my career, I was a nurse educator. And if there was a problem with one employee, the solution was, let's do a training session for all the employees about this. Why don't we just talk to that one employee and correct that
oh,
person
coach that
instead of
employee? Yeah,
creating something that doesn't really exist for the other, 20 staff?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And,
That's a
and
big. That still happens. That still happens.
I think too, during COVID, managers didn't always look at the human side of that person. It was more the productivity, and if they weren't productive enough, maybe we should find out if there's something at home or something with
Mhm.
family. But people were not equipped to deal with the impact COVID had, where you really did have to reach out and check in on people and stuff. So I get what you mean. So you are an expert in helping people recognize problems and develop resilience. Tell me a little bit more about your solutions to help this problem that we have. And it's not education, I get it.
It's not education alone, because humans are such complex beings. We're multidimensional, right? And I learn intellectually, but what about my emotions? What about my spiritual well-being? What about all those elements that applies to my realities in the workplace? And so when I talk to groups and when I go into organizations, I said, yes, I'm a trainer, a corporate trainer, but I'm also a conflict analyst. I have been a conflict analyst for over 2 decades. And I get to go into some nasty situations. And I ask myself, I can't believe they said this has been going on for 10 years. What is wrong with these people? Who does that for 10 years? Who lets this fester and go on like this?
Mm.
And people have a penchant for staying in situations that's familiar, even if it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
It's familiar. They will stay in the miserable situation rather than getting help. It's a human thing. We're lazy. Our brain is lazy to create that opportunity, look for the new opportunities until it's there. So we as humans, adults, intellectual being, need to put the structures in place so we will do the next. And that's why I talk a lot about having your workplace recovery plan. And with the ISR model, I look at the three elements of a recovery process. So the first one, of course, is the intervention. I usually come in as the conflict analyst. I'm here for intervention, and a lot of things happen in intervention. So what I do is I break that down and I work through the dialogue, the analysis, the auditing, the conversations, the awareness that needs to happen in that intervention stage. Then we move to stabilization because we need to stabilize what's happening in the organization. Part of that can be a leadership restoration plan. Part of that can be the employee mental well-being strategy. Part of that can be the whole workplace well-being strategy. Then you look at stabilization, which is the next place, because we don't just come in, intervene, and run out the door and say, okay, next time call me. Our goal is to ensure that that organization can become resilient. They have a structure in place and they have a process that can identify and mitigate well-being issues so that they don't become a crisis again. So they're not always in crisis. You see those departments, those teams, those organizations that are always in crisis. It comes back and didn't I wasn't I just there last year? Didn't we just do an intervention over there? Right. And this is where the stabilization comes in and becomes such an important aspect because now we see that roadmap, that progress roadmap for building resilience. We have a resilience building strategy for the organization that's going to sustain them so that it becomes a culture. It doesn't become, oh, somebody's here to fix things and then they're gone. What happens when we pour a good foundation, a good building on a poor foundation? It topples over. So we need to have all of that in place. We need to look at when crisis happen, what is our plan? What is our plan of action? Who are we going to? And then what do we want to have happen? Do we want to be in that cycle? Or do we want to use that as a learning growth opportunity for our organization? And that's where we come in.
Where do you find the biggest kind of resistance to the process along the way? Do you find it happens? Well, obviously the top has to make that decision that they need this, right? And then people often have reluctance to change, right? As you say, even if it's uncomfortable, people would rather live in discomfort than to go and face something that's unknown, right? So I'm thinking, okay, wow, this is amazing. You come in, and then people, are they kind of reluctant at first because they don't trust, they don't know what's going to happen, they don't want to expose themselves. Tell me a little bit about what those problems might be, how you help them overcome that to create this resilient
And that's why we
workplace.
use this model. And that's why our intervention strategy is so important. It's all about that first foot you put into the door, how you show up, and the conversation. It starts with a wellness conversation. How are you doing? And how well do you want to become?
And that's what you said first thing when we got on. How are you doing today?
People want to tell you what they want and how well they want to be. It's so important. But we don't listen, and nobody at work is listening. So we actually get employees involved in wellness conversations. What would happen if Sally over there was doing well? How would that make your life better at work? What can you do to contribute to that process? Right? And let's go big. Let's go bold. Let's not just look at your wellness in one area, but if you had a magic one and we could do a 9-dimensional wellness for you, how would that change your life? And how would that change your workplace? What if everyone got touched with that same brush? Have mercy. We're going to start thinking about things we haven't thought about. We create space in our brain to, the model we use with our wellness improvement system is a 9-dimensional framework. And employees will say things to me, Joyce, you've opened a part of my brain that will never close again. I have I have seen things differently. I never thought of that before.
Mhm.
Now I know. I can catch myself. I can see all the elements that all the variables that contributed to my unwell, my lack of ability to communicate responsibly at work, and how that affects everybody. This is the kind of conversations we need to start having with our employees. Instead of saying you are a rotten communicator and you're causing so much conflict at work, we create that awareness so they start saying, I did that. I have that impact. I can impact everyone in my work. I have that much power. Yes, you do.
You do.
Yes, you do. You have that much power.
When I
Why
get
not use it in a powerful way?
when I get going, I talk about you have the power to motivate and uplift these people. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah,
You make
yeah,
them smile. You also have the power to make them feel this big
yeah.
and go running to the bathroom and cry. And is
Mm-hmm,
that what you really want to do? Is that who
mm-hmm,
you really want to be? Do you want to
mm-hmm,
be the uplifter or the demotivator? Like,
mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
You say 9 dimensions. Can you share the 9 dimensions?
Oh, yes. And it's available
There may be
all
some
on
that
our
we don't even
website.
know about.
Okay, well, there are 9 dimensions of well-being. So there is the spiritual.
Mhm.
And in spiritual, we teach part of what we do in our intervention is that we teach that whole system, that whole person. We start treating people like they are a whole person. And you have a spiritual element to you. And that is where your passion lies. That is where your belief system lies. That is where your values are held, and why you get so upset when your values clash with workplace or with the things that your leaders may be doing or your colleagues. And that's what it is, and that's what creates value conflict, because those values are inherently attached to your self-esteem, your sense of self-worth, your belief, those passion, that purpose that you have for yourself that drives you to come to work and have a career. And so that is also the seed of your soul, why you get so upset and why you feel so wounded when these things are not taken care of at work. So and employees go, wow, I hadn't thought about it that way, right? So when we open up that conversation, then you go into the social wellness, right? You look at your communication, your ability to connect, to have relationships, to communicate well with those others in your workplace, in your team. Then we go to the emotional wellness, and we recognize emotions are how we experience the world. They're not who we are. And so my identity is not wrapped into the emotions that I may feel for this second, because emotions are these bursts of energy that I'm getting based on what I see and how I interpret it. I might see it and interpret it differently tomorrow. So why do I become that when it's not constant. It's transient. It's going to change in a little while. And when I get a little bit more information, I'm like, oh, so that's why this is happening. Okay, so this is why we're making this decision. And then we go into our occupational wellness. This is where I am passionate about. I bring that spiritual passion into my work so I can contribute, so I can connect with others, so I can be part of a vibrant organization. That is so important in our working life. And most of us put everything into that dimension and we forget to care for the other three I mentioned, that spiritual, social, and emotional, so that we can show up at work and be balanced. Then we go to the intellectual, because that is just as important, intellectual wellness. Intellectual wellness is where we learn, it's where we build experience. That's how we grow, right? Our knowledge base. And so we need to be developing our intellectual wellness. Then there is the environmental wellness. This is the environment, the greater environment, but also my environment at work. And we teach competencies around that. That's that interdependence, that ability to recognize and value others, and see how we relate and how we're interdependent we are. Respect, equity. Then there is financial wellness, because we know that when we're not financially well, it affects us intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, socially. So that is also a very important, and that's why we go to work, because we want work to help to sustain our financial well-being.
Yes, yes.
And so then we go into the physical wellness. That's this body that we carry and all the different elements to it, that houses it. And the ninth that nobody talks about is the interpersonal. And because I'm a conflict analyst, our model looks at the interpersonal, and it is actually the core, because everything has an interpersonal impact.
Yes.
Whether I'm spiritually well is going to impact my interpersonal wellness. My social is going to impact my interpersonal. And it actually feeds into all of these other areas. And so until we are well in those 8 areas, our ninth dimension, our interpersonal dimension, will always be like this.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are the 9 dimensions of wellness.
Thank you, because some of the people, the way you put it, it totally makes sense. And I don't think people would have put it on paper. What are the 9 dimensions? Okay, spiritual, psychosocial, emotional. Okay, what are the other? So thank you for sharing that. How do you see AI impacting on our well-being and resilience in the workplace?
Wow. AI is such a breath of fresh air, because now AI is a tool. When we started, do you remember when we had those big computers in the workplace, and it was one computer over there, one machine, and we would have to go and stand and wait turns to get stuff out of it. And then we got desktops. And then now we have laptop. We can take it home. And that's
IBM used to have a huge room with their stuff, right?
That's what AI is doing for us, because we now have more tools to do our work and to do it better, and it frees up more time for us to be well. We're not bogged down doing these tasks that can be automated.
And I'm glad you're saying that, Joyce, because that's what I believe. I believe it's an enabler to free us to do other things. I'm in terms of a tool called Colby. I'm a fact finder. I love going into Google and I'll do my facts. And no matter what I do, in the language of fascination, I'm prestige, continuous improvement. So even if I've done this training before, I want to go and see if there's anything that's changed, anything that's new, more statistics, because 5 years ago, statistics don't cut it anymore, because that was pre-COVID. So I'm one of those. And I can go down the rabbit hole, and I could spend 3-4 hours doing that. So now I go into ChatGPT and ask them, and then I validate, because I heard they're not exactly accurate. But instead of me taking 3 hours, 5 hours, and I enjoy it because I'm enjoying the process and finding the information, they can give me it in like 30 seconds. Absolutely. And then I can spend maybe another half hour or an hour if I really enjoy myself. Absolutely. So it's now freed me up 2 hours to do other things. So people who are scared of this, they need to think about, if I could free up time because somebody's doing something I don't really like to do or can do it quicker, what would I do? And that's what you need to think about rather than, oh, I'm going to lose my job. Well, maybe
Mm.
your job's going to be more enriching now when you don't have to do the grunt stuff.
Absolutely. My biggest challenge for me as an individual is that I have too many words. I have so much content. I have I have published 7 books, and those are just the ones that I put out there. I have so much content. I have in our school, in our wellness academy, I have hundreds of courses. We started doing online courses way back in 2014. We built our first LMS because we started doing e-courses back in the early 2000s. Guess what? I have frameworks and tools that I want to now take, and I want to optimize them and add more content. I have certification programs and um, books and stuff that I want to take to the next level. God for AI. I would be like, I can make them ready for this. I can go into my AI video. I can say, you know what? I have this new research I want to add to this training element, and here is it. Let's add this element to it. Let's revise this video. See, God for it. You know, the people who are scared of AI are the people who have not done the intellectual development.
Mm,
Because when you have your own intellectual property, when you're used to using your mind, you see AI as a tool. But
yes.
when you've never used your mind before, you see AI as a threat. And that's why I say we are behaving like we are in the feudal system. We're past the industrial system. We are in a different age, and we need to start recognizing tools when we see it. There is definitely ways to misuse
Yes.
anything on the planet. Anything on the planet can be misused, just as AI can be misused and manipulated. So, yes, do we need to have checks and balances? Do we need to do our due diligence? Absolutely. But the grunt work, absolutely, that's what AI is there for. And we need to educate our staff on how to use them. My entire team is learned how to use AI because AI is a tool for them. When they share content with me, when I give them content and they said, oh, I was processing this and we found this. And I was like, okay, let's take another look at it. That's our human responsibility for us to, AI is a tool, just like word processing, a word processor is a tool. Do you remember when we had to type everything on the typewriter? And then we got Word, Microsoft Word. Hello.
Yes. Yes. I still remember that. Ah, yes.
I remember learning to my keyboard on the typing and writing a letter with the carbon paper at work, and then we have to push it, and then it didn't work, and then to make a correction, nightmare, and then we got word processor. Oh, Word. Oh, we had Word. It is so AI is the
And cut
same
and
way,
paste
but
and
it's doing
everything.
stretching.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember when I was way back in my nursing days, I was part of, developing policies and procedures, and everybody would review it, and then you get people to edit it, and then the poor secretary is writing it out, and if she
Mhm,
made a mistake or you say, oh, I don't like this word, let's change it to they.
mhm.
You had to change it to they everywhere, and so she had to write the whole thing over
The
again.
whole thing over.
No cut and paste. Yes, yes.
Have
I,
mercy.
I think it's part of getting comfortable with change, and some people,
Absolutely.
are those early adopters. Then there's the rest, and then there's the laggards. You know,
Always,
a
always.
decade later, still we're not putting voicemail on because they didn't want to talk to this thing. I'm going, really, really, yeah. So I think we are, in an age where we are in constant change, and we need to get comfortable and embrace this. But it's tough. I think COVID did a number for people, and And certainly there's stresses even now financially, and the stability, the yeah. So
We're
it's
living in a
hard.
different world, certainly. I mean, look how many wars we have going on that we know of, right? That's coming throughout. There
Yes.
are other ones going on that we don't hear about every day.
And because we're more global now, we kind of know almost everything. If we want to, we can know everything that's going on.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
there's so much tension and stress. Do
There
you have
is.
any final kind of tips to share with people to help them with that resilience and recovery, just even
Yes.
internally or in their workplaces?
The one of the what we do in the stabilization element of the ISR model is create a resilience building strategy. And then we build out the resilience progress map. That means it doesn't happen overnight. Resilience is not something that, oh, we're resilient. It is going to be a process of developing resilience. And so, one of the things that we do with our clients for resilience building is the 9 dimensions that I share with you also align with 12 well-being competencies. And so we teach those wellness competencies and the well-being prompts that help us to apply those things like integrity, responsible communication, the whole self-mastery. Then we look at that engagement. So we are looking, then capacity building is very important. So we teach some competencies, and we all know competencies can be developed, they can be learned, they can be coached, they can be observed. And that's why I like to go to competencies when we're looking at resilience. Because these wellness competencies give us a framework, they give us a roadmap. We have ways to apply them, we have ways to reinforce them, and we have ways to be consistently growing and learning and share them with others. So when crisis happens at work, we are not falling apart,
Hmm. Hmm.
either individually or as a team. We can be resilient because we can pull on those competencies. And that's what gives us the bunks to get back up. So often, resilience is talked about as like something you pull from your hat. It is not. It's something you develop, and you need a process to develop resilience, and you need a process to sustain your resilience. Because when you already down, that's a hard time to start building resilience because you don't have the stamina to build resilience.
Yes,
But
and
if you
little things make you almost at capacity to manage,
yes,
right?
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
This has been wonderful. I love the 9 dimensions. I love that word you just said, bounce, because bounce has this kind of entity of energy and moving forward and stuff. What's coming up next for you, Joyce?
Ah, well, I have 2 manuscripts that I'm struggling with in terms of what do I take out of them because I always have too much content. So I'm writing one book on the well-being curriculum. I have I just released my 7th book last year on a marriage that thrive. I took all of these wellness competencies and put them into marriage because we celebrated our 32nd wedding anniversary. So that was one of the projects I did. So that's another area where I'm now taking those skills and helping in another area of life that a lot of people struggle with at work because the divorce and the relationship breakdown actually becomes an issue in the workplace. So that was one area that I nobody was tackling, and I thought, you know what, let me tackle that piece. I had the resources, and so I did that, and that was kind of like a celebration for our 32nd year. So it was released around our
Congrats
anniversary.
on both.
Then yes, and then of course we have our Faces of Workplace Wellness magazine that we put out quarterly. We're going back to print this year, And I'm so excited to have you part of our editorial team.
I'm
And,
excited.
this is where we're going to showcase what's happening in the workplace. And so we're inviting HR practitioners, we're inviting leaders, we're also inviting professionals to share tips for well-being at work, because there are other ways and people learn from different people. And when we bring our ideas together, we want that magazine to be a go-to where people can pull and say, you know what, I read that here. Oh, there was this strategy here. Let's bring it into our organization. And that's what we're about. That's what's up for us coming up.
You're just, you've lived, eaten, breathed like wellness in the workplace, now wellness in marriage. And I remember you inviting me to be part of the wellness magazine for the holiday issue. And I thought, well, instead of the holiday, I'm gonna turn towards 2025 and talk about what we need to do there. And I was so impressed with the previous magazine and the content, and then the holiday issue. I'm looking forward to being part of the board, but I'm also looking forward to continuing to read so many of the articles that you and others are putting out. And you are a profusion of knowledge. And thank you. Thank you very much, Joyce, for coming and sharing that knowledge with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Hilda.
You're welcome. And thank you to those who have listened and those who are seeing this on YouTube. If you like this episode, give it a thumbs up and join and subscribe, because we have a host of experts who share their perspective on areas of managing a business, managing the culture of your organization. Have a great day, everybody, and rev up your business. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Business with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date with all of our latest episodes. For more HR tips, strategies, and to learn how you can create a people-centric workplace, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.